Imagine this. You're trapped in a room. The walls are made of your own bad habits. The ceiling is built from your fear of failure, and the door, your only way out, is unlocked, but you've convinced yourself you're not strong enough to open it. Now ask yourself, what if that's not a metaphor? What if that's your actual life? One of the most brutal truths we can confront is this: you are not everything you could be, and you know it. Deep down, buried beneath the excuses, the distractions, and the noise, there is a whisper, a still small voice that tells you the truth. It says, you're wasting potential. That voice doesn't lie. Most people run from it. They numb it with entertainment, with routine, or even with bitterness. But that voice is your soul begging you to take ownership. To change your life, you must first admit that your current life is, at least in part, your own creation. You have shaped your reality with your choices, your disciplines, your fears, and it can be reshaped again, but only by someone brave enough to face the truth. There is no transformation without burden. There is no greatness without suffering. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you're choosing to stay small. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. It means accepting that your future depends on your willingness to act, to learn, and to fail. Responsibility is heavy. That's why most people drop it. But the weight you carry voluntarily, when you choose to bear it, transforms you. That's when life begins to make sense. That's when meaning starts to emerge. The path out of despair is uphill, but if you carry your cross with courage, you will not only ascend, you will inspire others to rise too. Change does not demand a revolution. It demands order. It demands that you aim at something noble and begin cleaning up what you can control. Start with your room, your habits, your routines. Set your alarm earlier. Speak more truthfully. Confront what you've been avoiding. You don't need to transform the entire world today. You need to put one piece of it in order. That's how mountains are moved, one stone at a time. Chaos, anxiety, self-hate, they feed on disorder. The moment you impose structure, even in the smallest area of life, you begin to build a fortress against helplessness. Make order a daily act of rebellion against mediocrity. If you are not afraid, you are not growing. Fear is not your enemy. It is the indicator that you are standing at the edge of the familiar, staring into the unknown. That is the place of change. That is where the transformation happens. The greatest lie we tell ourselves is that safety equals happiness, but safety too often equals stagnation. Growth is dangerous. Becoming who you're meant to be requires confronting dragons, your insecurities, your trauma, your laziness, your past. But those dragons guard treasure. The treasure is your strength, your freedom, your future. And the only way to find it is to step into the cave, not because you are fearless, but because you are courageous despite your fear. One of the most brutal truths we can confront is this: you are not everything you could be, and you know it. This realization stings. It's uncomfortable. It's humbling. But it is also the first necessary step toward meaningful change. Most people spend their entire lives constructing an elaborate illusion to avoid confronting that truth. They build it with excuses. I didn't get the opportunity. I'm just not lucky. People don't understand me, as though the external world is solely responsible for the shape of their internal one. But deep down in the silence of the night, when all distractions are gone and you're left alone with your thoughts, you hear a whisper, and that whisper isn't gentle. It says you could be so much more. This inner voice is not there to torment you. It is trying to wake you up. It speaks in moments of frustration, in regret, in envy. When you see someone living with strength or purpose, it doesn't just make you feel inspired. It often makes you angry. Why? Because they reflect back what you could be if you had the courage to act. That anger isn't really directed at them. It's aimed inward, at your own unrealized potential, your own wasted time, and your own silent consent to mediocrity. But you have to face that pain. You must not turn away from it. The truth is that the life you're currently living is, in large part, a result of your decisions, both active and passive. Somewhere along the way, you may have given up your agency. You stopped believing that your actions mattered. You let yourself believe that things just are the way they are. But that belief is not wisdom. It is resignation. It is learned helplessness disguised as maturity. The antidote to this is the brutal honesty of self-reflection. You must ask yourself, what patterns am I repeating that keep me here? What am I pretending not to know? Where have I become my own jailer? When you start answering those questions truthfully, something powerful begins to happen. You regain your sense of agency, you start to see the edges of your cage, and more importantly, the tools within you that can dismantle it. Recognizing that you're not where you could be isn't a message of shame, it's a message of hope. It means there is more for you. It means the story isn't over. But it can't be rewritten unless you first admit that the current chapter isn't good enough. And that act alone, that moment of truth, is the first act of courage that begins to change your life. There's a reason why comfort is seductive. It offers relief from the weight of existence. It cushions you from failure, shields you from judgment, and promises that if you stay still, nothing will hurt you. But that comfort comes at a cost, and that cost is your potential. True change, real transformation, only begins the moment you step away from the easy path and toward the heavy responsibility of shaping your life. Responsibility demands effort. It demands that you take yourself seriously, that you see your choices as having weight, and that you stop waiting for someone else to rescue you. You can't become who you're meant to be while living like a bystander in your own life. You are not designed to live on autopilot, waking up, going through meaningless routines, numbing yourself with distractions, and calling that a life. That's not a life, that's survival. Responsibility, on the other hand, is the pathway to meaning. It begins with a simple but radical idea that your actions matter, that your decisions ripple out beyond you, that your character is formed not by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. Most people flee from responsibility because it feels like a burden, but what they fail to see is that responsibility is also the birthplace of strength. When you take ownership of your habits, your time, your words, and your values, something shifts inside of you. You're no longer a victim of your past or your environment. You become a force of intention. Life doesn't become easier when you embrace responsibility. It becomes harder and more meaningful, and meaning is what your soul is starving for, not ease. Think about it, everything worthwhile is hard. Building a career, raising a child, developing character, telling the truth, staying disciplined. These things are difficult, and yet they are the very things that bring richness to life. Why? Because difficulty forges depth. Challenge creates capacity. You don't grow stronger by avoiding weight. You grow stronger by choosing to carry it. So, if you want to change your life, you must abandon the illusion that comfort is the goal. Comfort is what keeps you small, but responsibility, that painful, noble, daily choice to act with integrity, is what makes you powerful. The weight you choose to bear voluntarily transforms you. It shapes you into someone who can withstand life, not just escape it. And once you realize that, you'll start to chase the hard path, not because it's hard, but because it's worth it. When people imagine changing their lives, they often think in terms of massive upheavals, quitting a job, leaving a city, ending a relationship, starting a business overnight. But in reality, true change begins not with dramatic acts, but with the small, disciplined steps you take daily. The world is chaotic. Your mind is often even more chaotic. The first and most powerful thing you can do to initiate transformation is to impose structure on yourself, on your space, and on your time. Without structure, everything you do is reactive. You bounce from distraction to distraction, never anchoring yourself in anything meaningful. But when you introduce order, even in small increments, you begin to push back against that chaos. The most overlooked truth is this: your external environment mirrors your internal world. If your room is a mess, if your schedule is scattered, if your finances are unchecked, it's often a sign of mental disorganization, and instead of tackling the world's problems first, you must begin with what's immediately in front of you. Start with what you can control, clean your space, organize your morning, create a habit, even a small one, that adds value to your day. This is not trivial, it's foundational. Each act of order is a declaration that you are not powerless. Many people avoid small tasks because they seem insignificant. What difference does it make if I make my bed? Why bother tracking what I eat? But these small actions are symbolic. They are statements to your subconscious mind that you are worthy of attention and that your actions have meaning. When you show up consistently, even in little ways, you begin to rewire your self-image. You stop seeing yourself as a scattered, lazy, broken person and start recognizing yourself as someone capable of discipline, clarity, and growth. Creating order also helps manage anxiety and overwhelm. When your life feels out of control, it's usually because you are surrounded by too many unknowns. You don't know where things are, you don't know what to do next, and you don't trust yourself to handle it. But order gives you a foothold. It gives you predictability in a world that often feels unstable. It becomes the first domino in a chain of improvement. And over time, those small improvements compound. They stack, they build momentum. Before long, the person who couldn't even get out of bed on time is now managing goals, making progress, and facing challenges with clarity. So instead of chasing grand, overwhelming change, start by restoring order within and around you. That's the battlefield where transformation quietly begins. Fear is the constant shadow that follows any meaningful pursuit. It shows up at the edge of every decision that matters, and it grows louder the closer you get to change. But the presence of fear is not a signal to retreat. It's a compass pointing toward what matters. If you're afraid, it means you've found the threshold of your comfort zone, and that threshold is exactly where transformation begins. Most people wait for fear to disappear before they take action. They wait until they feel confident, secure, and certain, but that day never comes, because courage does not come from the absence of fear, it comes from walking forward in spite of it. Every worthwhile path in life demands that you face something intimidating, whether it's having a difficult conversation, leaving a toxic environment, starting a new routine, or finally confronting your past. Fear will be there. It whispers doubts, you're not ready, you'll fail, you're not enough. But fear is not prophecy, it's resistance. It's the part of you that clings to the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. Fear often isn't fear of failure, it's fear of becoming someone new. It's the terror of losing the identity you've spent years reinforcing, even if that identity is rooted in limitation. What you must understand is this: fear does not mean stop. Fear means proceed with awareness. It means you are engaging with something real. You are moving into territory where growth is possible, and therefore where danger might exist, but that danger is necessary. You do not become strong in safe places. You do not discover who you are by avoiding the things that shake you. Your character, your confidence, your resilience, they are all forged in the fire of the unknown. The dragon you're afraid to face guards the treasure you're seeking. This is an ancient truth. The parts of your life that hold the most fear, those are often the areas that also contain your deepest potential. If you hide from them, you stay the same. If you confront them, you change, and even if you stumble, even if you fail, the act of confronting that fear builds something essential within you. It teaches you that you are not as fragile as you once believed. It teaches you that your capacity is greater than your doubt. You begin to trust yourself, not because life is predictable, but because you have learned that you can stand firm even when it's not. Change is not a destination you stumble into. It is a deliberate, courageous act of transformation that begins in the hidden corners of your life. When you recognize that you're not where you could be, you are not making a judgment against yourself, but offering yourself the most powerful gift, the truth. That recognition is the moment you stop being a victim of your own story and begin to rewrite it. Admitting that your life could be better, richer, and more meaningful is not a failure. It's the beginning of hope, but hope without action is hollow. You must decide that today is the day you stop lying to yourself about where you are and who you've allowed yourself to become. When you take responsibility, you step out of the role of spectator and into the role of architect. Responsibility may feel heavy, but it is also liberating. It gives you control over the direction of your life. Without it, you drift. With it, you steer. Life becomes meaningful not because it's easy, but because you choose to carry something that matters. And in that choice, your suffering becomes purpose. Your struggle becomes strength. You stop chasing comfort and instead begin to chase growth, knowing that the burden you carry willingly will build the very person you need to become. Every act of ownership, no matter how small, moves you closer to a life of depth and dignity. Small, structured steps create momentum. Chaos is overwhelming, but order, deliberate, consistent order, is empowering. Change doesn't require a revolution, it requires a decision followed by repetition. You begin by cleaning up your space, managing your time, choosing your words more carefully, and building habits that reflect who you want to become, not who you've been. These acts may seem insignificant, but they are sacred. They are rituals of self-respect, they create identity, and as you build structure around your life, you begin to build a fortress within your mind, one that can withstand the storms of self-doubt, distraction, and despair. Fear will always be there, but it's not your enemy. It is the price of evolution, the necessary companion of change. If you're afraid, it means you're walking into something real. It means you're no longer settling for the safe and the stagnant. You are facing the dragons of your past and the uncertainty of your future with open eyes. That is what it means to have the courage to change your life, to walk through the fire knowing you might get burned, but walking anyway, because the life you've been living is no longer worth staying in. And the life waiting on the other side of that fear, it's the one you were meant for all along. If this message spoke to your heart and stirred something deep within you, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and help this message reach more souls who need to hear it. Your presence here means more than you know. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video that could change your perspective or your life. Leave a comment below and let me know what part of the speech hit you the hardest. I'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the conversation. Until next time, stay strong, stay aware, and always have the courage to change. Goodbye for now, and thank you from the bottom of my heart.